equity is a basic human emotion. In the workplace, we have a responsibility to honor and to require that each of us as leaders demonstrate first that behavior and then make sure that those that we are lifting as we lead, those that we are opening the space to, also adhere to those same rules. That's why culture is so important, because if you don't create the culture, it will be created whether or not you're involved.
Welcome to Business Leaders with Soul, a podcast showcasing the change makers and innovators of our times who are ushering in a new age of conscious business. They're authentic, they're original, and their message connects with the people they're here to serve. Be inspired by these futurists and make the difference that you, too, came here to make. And now, here's your host, Lee Aldridge.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Aldridge with Soul Story Creative, where we don't tell you who to be. We show the world who you are. Now, with us today to share her thoughts on the future of conscious business and what that means to her is Alycia Huston with the Culture Crew, building trust to transform. Alycia Huston mentors senior leaders and leadership teams as they achieve sustainable business growth by leading in a new way. Alycia is a certified neuro leadership coach, consultant, and international speaker. She honed her craft as a female biotech founder in San Diego, and after a decade of implementing growth strategies and leading a high-performance culture, sold the venture in 2014. She now incorporates her 20-plus years of experience in neuroscience, communication, and empathy to develop, restructure, and support businesses in developing a culture of belonging through her company, the Culture Crew. Alycia, I am so happy to have you here. It's great to see you again. Welcome.
Thank you. It is wonderful to be here.
So great. Gosh, and the neuroscience industry has just exploded in the last 10 years. You're just seeing more and more about it. What does it look like when leadership is lacking in setting up their team and their employees for success, especially post-pandemic and all the crazy challenges that are facing our leaders?
You know what? It's so true about the realm of neuroscience. I never thought that when I decided to major in science in college, that I would be at this space in the realm of neuroscience, applying it in the realm of business. So what I'm finding with the individuals I am connected to and working with is that, to your point, post-pandemic, there are so many virtual meetings. One of my clients had 13 million virtual meetings last year. And what leadership must realize is that it's very taxing on the mind, the brain, and the body. And so when you are requesting your employees to show up for these video conferences, because we must in this day and time, we have to provide them the opportunity to be off camera. We have to give them the grace that children may run into the room. We have to understand that pets may jump on a computer. So we have to have the mindset of putting ourselves in other people's shoes, because all of our situations and circumstances are different. And that is why empathy leadership is so important. And that is how we bring people into our spaces of culture where they feel that they matter and they belong and they are included, whatever their particular circumstance.
So you're really turning this, lemons of virtual meetings. And that is just a crazy, crazy stat, 13 million.
Right.
But you're really turning this and leveraging it to bring in more humanity into our corporations, into our companies, even, with the pets and the kids.
Yeah.
So I can see why the challenges could actually be turned into, well, we have to. That's what innovation is, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, indeed.
What about the old way, of the old command and control, like that's not working anymore.
It's not working. And, with especially when we're seeing these amazing and brilliant millennials and Gen Xers,
Zs.
all of these Zs, thank you, because I get them all, so many, right? When we're seeing they're coming in with a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity, and a lot of opportunity for us to look at things different. And so when you're a leader in these spaces, you still have to understand that the millennials, all of the beauty that they bring to the space, that you have to help mentor them to cultivate the container. So they may have the ideas, but they don't have the structure. They don't have the experience that our baby boomers have, that, our Gen Xers have, people like that. So there can be a great marriage, but when you're in a realm of leadership, you have to understand how to invite these different personalities, these different age groups, these different demographics into a conversation that can become cohesive and create a win-win outcome for us all.
Right, because the young people always have the great ideas, but how we're going to implement them and get them company-wide is another whole animal.
Right.
So where does neuroscience come in with this?
Oh, what a great question. So here is the thing. When somebody will bring an opportunity, an idea, something innovative, when we shut someone down immediately, they then will go into a space of feeling dismissed. Dismissive behavior will absolutely trigger the amygdala. The amygdala is the emotional brain. And when the amygdala comes online, we no longer have the opportunity to tap in to our chief executrix, which is our prefrontal cortex, because all of the blood is now being diverted to this space of the emotional brain. And this is where emotions begin to rise, dismissive behaviors, where you see people maybe even acting out, speaking out, ignoring, because now they don't even have, they're not being acknowledged, which is one of the most basic human instincts. And so when we are dismissed and not acknowledged and not included, we're put up on and we're backed into a corner per se. And that is the amygdala that comes online, and our better functioning in the top of the brain is really, we really cannot access it. So we then experience chaos. We experience confrontation. We experience where people just are they do not feel a sense of belonging. They no longer feel safe to bring their ideas in. And so that all triggers the brain and sends messages to the brain that I am not safe in this environment.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to bring up all number of life experiences, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
Yes.
When one is triggered, then it just cascades with past.
Yes, because the hypothalamus is where we access memory. And so and that is right next to the emotional brain. That's how things are embedded when your baby is born, the memory of that sweet smell, or when your mom or dad for the holidays makes a particular meal, that's embedded, that smell embeds in the memory, right? Because it's all right there in the emotions that it brings. Same as the negative emotions, Lee. If something brings a negative emotion, it may directly connect to something in your past, and it will trigger that memory. And then you can actually juxtapose and put that up on what's happening now, and we can make it worse than it is, or it could absolutely be what it is. And it brings us to a space of, I need to protect myself.
Yeah. Now you got a mess in the room. Yes. Because somebody that just was shut down of their idea, maybe just out of insensitivity with the leader, just didn't realize what they were doing. So a lot of what you're handling is awareness. When people become aware that their team member may be expressing an innovative idea, to shut up and let them, give them the opportunity or the space, create. So I suppose a lot of what you do is create an environment where they are safe to express these new innovations as a young person, kind of out of water, just not really having a skill set to know how to be a leader.
And that is so true. And here's the thing. Awareness does not create transformation. Awareness is simply the aha. And to your point, because like you said, but you were very clear. The action was to shut my mouth, so that's where the transformation comes in, is in the action that you implement that follows the awareness. See, that space is the invitation for you to create the transformation. Whether I be someone who is older and stuck in my ways because I think my ideas are better, or where I am a younger person who also thinks I'm younger and more hip, and so my ideas are better. So we have to create a space, a culture of inclusivity where we realize, yes, all people matter, all people are relevant. However, every idea, every thought, everything that is brought up at this table is not going to be able to be utilized. And how do we deal with that?
Yeah. It gets more and more complicated. You just mentioned inclusivity.
Yeah.
And then diversity. I mean, we've got a whole world looking with a magnifying, well, hopefully, really looking at the inequality, the social inequality, the injustices. So you bring that into a company now, you've got another whole new can of worms to unpack with that layering of these defense mechanisms. So what's going on with that?
So here's the thing. Dr. David Rock has a beautiful model called the SCARF model. And this is an acronym. And each one of these letters they represent a part of the human brain. They represent a part of the human experience. And so when you look at the SCARF model, it is very clear that social, that's S, is so imperative. And social means that we are connecting on a level of humanness, humanity, respect for persons, right? Respect for our fellow man, our fellow woman, our fellow coworker, colleague, whomever. So we have a responsibility. The SCARF model talks about autonomy. The A is being autonomous, allowing people the opportunity to autonomously work in their genius, but with having parameters. How do we create that? We can't create that for one person and not create it for another. So that's where equity comes into play. And equity is a basic human emotion. When we feel, there was a study with monkeys that one monkey was given a bunch of candy, the other monkey was not. And this, you can do the research on this. And the monkey that was not given the candy started going crazy in the cage. And so they're little chimps, they start shaking the cage and going nuts because there was no equity amongst each of them. It is basic. It is a basic human instinct. And so in the workplace, we have a responsibility to honor and to require that each of us as leaders demonstrate first that behavior and then make sure that those that we are lifting as we lead, those that we are opening the space to, also adhere to those same rules. That's why culture is so important, because if you don't create the culture, it will be created whether or not you're involved.
Right. And it can be like a kindergarten classroom and you get one kid in there that can disrupt the whole thing. Now the company is in jeopardy.
Yes, Lee. Yes. And that is what we experienced really, 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 really deeply in 2020 with a lot of the injustices that were happening in our world that people had not really been exposed to before. It was new for them, or they had seen it and they had the opportunity to not pay attention because it really wasn't in their lane. But it bubbled up to the surface last year, right? In a way that nobody could no longer ignore. Now, we all have free will. We can always turn a blind eye if we choose to, as many have done and continue to do, but
with consequences.
With consequences. But what we cannot do is deny its existence. It exists. We cannot bury our head in the sand, because what happens is it hurts us as a nation when we do that. And what we also have to be so clear about, Lee, is that, the race system was created to be divisive. We are one dang on race. Now, we have different cultures, we have different experiences, we have different foods, right? Like, I love Indian food, I love Chinese food, I love Mediterranean food, I love soul food. Now, those are cultural, but the race, baby, we are all the human race. We have different hues of skin, right? We have different hues, but we are all the human race. Culturally, we may have different experiences,
which we get to celebrate.
Oh my gosh, right? How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that?
If we were all alike, how boring. Oh, God.
It would be so boring on this earth.
It would. Well, how are the young kids, I say young kids because of where I am looking back. But how are these new brilliant minds? I mean, clearly their brains are just wired different, it seems to me. They're so just lightning fast. How are they wanting to collaborate? Do they want to come in and be leaders?
Yes. So let me give you an example recently. Howard University has been in the news, and that's a historically Black college, for their subpar dorm situation. And the young people, I'm so proud of them, the young people there. So this is going to answer your question. They are saying, we live here. I need the leadership to listen. They said, we want to be a part of the board of directors meetings. We need to have a voice in these directors meetings. We need a seat at the table. We need to have a conversation with who has the contract for maintaining our dorm rooms, because they need to be fired and we need to get another vendor, and we want to be a part of the dialogue. We didn't say we wanted to take over. We want to be a part of it. This is our lens. We're living it. We're experiencing it. We're breathing it. Our voice is imperative in this conversation. So yes, Lee, they want to be a part of it. They want to come to the table together. They realize the importance of becoming an active participant in the change and transformation. So they're not trying to shuck and jive any responsibility or duck. But now the leadership has a responsibility to get off of their duffs, right? And it's not programming as usual. And let's create an environment that invites higher learning and invites young and quote old, not in that, old coming together to find the new way. That's why I say it's time for a new type of leadership. That command control, my way, the highway, it is not going to fly. These young people are brilliant. They're full of life. They need those of us that have a level of different maturity and lenses that have some life experience to help guide, mentor, be the bumper rails for them. But we do not need to control them. We need to support them, and we need to guide them along the journey with our wisdom and our knowledge.
And that's where the neuroscience comes in as a tool, because the leaders, it seems to me, are the ones in the hot seat. Yes. Number one, they've got to relinquish having to be the big decision maker. They get to be collaborators. And, number two, to create that environment where the new can be birthed. That's what, we talk about in innovation in this new thing of conscious business. I mean, leaders now is there an opportunity here, like for leaders to be kind of relax a little?
So yummy. That's such a great question, because I'm going to go back to the SCARF model again. The F is for fairness. The R is for relatedness. We need to relate to each other's lens, right? And then there's this level of fairness that plays out on both sides, where we both can say, okay, this baton is yours. So you're going to handle that baton. You go run that marathon with that baton. And I'm going to run the marathon with this baton that I know is for me. And so to answer your question, yes, Lee, there is that opportunity for relaxation. We don't have to do it all. We don't have to fix it all. We don't have to have all the answers. How beautiful is that to operate in a space, to your point, of collaboration, where we say, hey, whose hand is most apt for this baton?
Right. Right. And then everybody's operating in their genius and working. It becomes, way more than 2 + 2 is 4. It's 2 + 2 is 20.
Come on, Lee. Come on.
It's infinite.
And what could we do in this world with understanding how we involve people, how it helps the brain thrive to be a part and to contribute to greater humanity, greater experiences, greater workplaces. The brain loves to be rewarded, because what it does is it releases dopamine, serotonin, all of those yummy neurochemicals that make us want to do more, because we want more of that. So when we actually come to these places of collaboration and we inspire new ways, new thoughts, new opportunities for each other on both sides, we create more. We're healthier. We're more joyful. And then why would we not even want to spread that more in our global nation, right? In our families. We have better families, better marriages, better relationships with our children. My gosh. Right. Everything wins because our brain is happy. We're happy. There's deep joy. There's deep gratitude. And you and I both know that just opens the door for more for all of us. It's a win-win for the world.
You know what it feels like to me is that we're all realizing, that we have innately the tools we need to carry us into the next future. The future is now, right?
Yes.
And you can show us the tools that we have and to use at our disposal for the good of all. And look at that ripple effect. That is fantastic.
Right? Because here's the thing. Women, we have by nature more emotional centers in our brain. So there is that space of intuition that we just know. And you know why? Because let me just be clear. This is where physiology comes in. We're mamas. We know when that baby's hungry. We know when that baby just needs a little burping. We know when that baby just needs a little human touch. We have been built for this. This is physiological. And so that is why the research is very clear about women making phenomenal leaders, because we have that level of empathy. We can look and we can sense something is wrong. So let me create a space of collaborative conversation so that we can bring these things to the forefront. And it doesn't mean men are these bad people, because there is a value for how men also do business. Sometimes we need men to move us along to the next thing because we can maybe we stay in something a little too long. So we need these two dynamics of
There's a balance.
Feminine. Yeah, the feminine and the masculine. It doesn't necessarily rate to male, female. But these are strategies that move the needle forward when we understand the brain of the woman, the brain of the man, and then how we can create more. How do we infuse more opportunity so that it's a win-win for us in our cultures?
Right. That is beautiful. I could go on and on.
Yes.
I have so many more questions. We'll just have to have you back. So it's about being emotionally intelligent with all the way around, mentoring emotional intelligence for the younger generation so that they can so that they can convey their new ideas, in a way that lands and gets traction rather than sitting in the corner feeling diminished.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I love that you said that. That is the crux of it all. It is emotional intelligence, and that can be a buzzword. So I like helping individuals, corporations understand what that looks like from the lens of the brain. Mm-hmm. What does it look like? How is it deployed? Right?
Exactly.
Because here's the thing. Once again, to your point, yes, we can be made aware, but if we want the transformation, we've got to deploy some actions, and we have responsibilities. And
everybody, the leader and everybody at the table. If you want to have your idea heard, then this is how we're going to do it. Yeah.
That's right, Lee. That's right.
I just love that. Well, Alycia, we've come to the end here, but I know you love speaking. You visit organizations on a quarterly on-site visits to have conversations, not just with the leadership team, but individual senior leaders and consulting on the habits. What is the best way to connect with you? How can we learn more?
So you can connect me. The best way is LinkedIn, and it's my name, my full name, Alycia, Alycia, and Huston, Huston. That is the best way to connect with me. I am actually, we're all in this space of when we understand we can do better, right? So my website is launching here, and there will be more ways that I'm going to be educating, because I have a responsibility, right? I don't get to just sit back. I too have to be in action. I'm aware that this is needed in our world. So I am creating ways to disseminate the information. So my website is The Culture Crew, and that's CRU.com, because I have a team, and this is what we're passionate about. So none of us should be doing this work alone.
No, and gosh, I am so inspired. I want to be in that culture crew. You've inspired me. We're going to have those links for our listeners in the description and in the show notes page. We'll definitely have this. We can look for you on LinkedIn, and it's Alycia Huston. It is a different spelling, Huston, and then theculturecrew.com. So we'll be sure and put all of that clearly in the show notes. And it has just been wonderful. Thank you so much for spending time. I know our listeners are just going to love this. Thank you
for having me. Thank you, Lee. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you. And I can't wait to hear the feedback from your listeners.
I know. Thanks. See you soon.
You got it.
Thanks for tuning in to Business Leaders with Soul. We hope you enjoyed this discussion into the mind of one of today's authentic thought leaders. We'll be back with another powerful perspective in the next podcast, so be sure to subscribe to get notifications, and please share with others. You can connect with us by following Soul Story Creative on LinkedIn, or by visiting soulstorycreative.com, where we don't tell you who to be, we show the world who you are. We look forward to seeing you next time.